team, welcome back. Yes, we have another session tonight to record, and as per previous videos, if you've watched them, I'm on the comeback trail following injury and illness, but I'm not going to harp on about that. I think my last video was a bit of me droning on. I'm feeling sorry for myself, so I'm going to move out of that feel sorry for myself zone. Let's get positive. So what am I going to do today? Well, I'm going to bite the bullet. I think I've joined up the Zwift Build Me Up plan, so I've entered that. It's 12-week plan, which will take me nicely to my first goal of the year, which is the National Duathlon Champs. So a structured plan in my head will help me build back, as long as I can build back with some health and fitness and not get ill or get injured again. So today, at the start of the plan, it is a FTP test. Now that is something that I've not done for quite some time. I've always kind of taken my FTP from a road time trial, and I haven't done one of those for a good while either. So I'm kind of thinking, well, if I'm going to do this build me up plan, I may as well have my power levels correct as for this point in time right now, no matter how healthy or recovered I am or I am not, because I don't think I'm particularly firing well still. But hey, if I'm doing an FTP test, then initially the levels will be right. If I start to pick up and it all becomes too easy, then I'll retake the FTP test, and that should reset the power levels at a bit of a higher stage. So we'll see how it goes. Well, quite nervous about this. So what are the expectations of this FTP test? To be honest, absolutely no idea. On Zwift, my FTP normally, if I'm firing well, is around 265 watts. It's not that high on the road. When I've done like an hour's time trial, proper effort, it's lower. But I get good results on that, or have done. Around Zwift though, it's around 260, 265. I've been higher, but that was a few years ago, and I'm thinking I'm older, a bit weaker, not exactly fresh. Expectation wise then, man, I think I'll be lucky to get an FTP of 230. But like I said, it's a marker in the sand, isn't it? It's a level to base the training sessions on a bit more accurately. So we'll do that today. I'll film it, which will probably be a bit of sick bucket action. It gets really hard towards the end, and after that I intend, because I need to do a treadmill, some hill strides on the treadmill, and that will be a really good session. But if I'm feeling really rough, I'll have to rethink it. But I don't want to dwell on that kind of recovery phase that I've been in since the illness. I want to move forward with some good training and feel good about doing that training. Right, just having a spin while I'm talking to you guys, and then I'll switch directly to the FTP test. Oh my word, it's gonna hurt. Ouch. Look at all that red on the increments of the FTP test. Right, we're off. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the ramp test is just a step test where the power is set by the smart trainer, and every minute it goes up by 20 watts. So starting off now for a minute at just 100 watts, which is basically just spinning with no power at all. And it gets harder and harder as you get more and more tired, till you get to the point where you can't turn the pedals. And that is the FTP test, and it calculates. It's a short test. Ideally the only test you've got is to do an hour's riding. That is more accurate. This is a short test with an algorithm to simulate riding for an hour. So FTP, the maximum amount of power you can sustain for 1 hour. And this is a short, abridged test version to stop you actually having to ride for an hour. Which, as I said earlier, I probably prefer to ride for an hour on a TT bike on a good course, because it's more realistic. I just empty the tank. It's just so hard to do that and get a meaningful result on the turbo. So this is a good alternative. And if you're going to do all your training for the build me up plan on Zwift on the smart trainer, not get out on the road, it's worth having a Zwift FTP rather than a real life road FTP. Okay, so we've done 2 minutes now, just coming up to the next increment. 140 watts. So I've got my heart rate on today as well, which I don't normally do. So this is nice and easy, steady, 115 beats per minute. Could do this all day, but it only lasts for a minute. And then we're up to 160 watts. And what you find with this test, it all feels quite doable. Yeah, the increments go up and up and you adjust with it and your body adjusts. Then all of a sudden, you just start working a lot harder. And then it becomes very difficult to complete each minute. Each minute then becomes torture and you look no further than the end of that minute. It's very, very hard once you start getting to that tipping over the edge of max to sustain another minute, to eke out every bit you can. So it's an extremely hard test. And there we go, the minutes go quite quickly. 160 watts, heartbeat rising slowly, but it will start to spike pretty quickly. And as you can see, it also calculates on here your average power as the increments sort of progress. So I'm averaging 146 watts for the whole test so far, which isn't great. And I think to get a meaningful or anywhere near the 230 watts for this test that I mentioned, then I'll probably have to go deep into 300 plus watts on the minute increments. All that, 230 watts for an FTP is pretty dismal, to be honest. But I am old and I am lightweight, and on real time, I can ride a 25-mile time trial in 56, 57 minutes, averaging around 225, 230 watts. And I've done a 50-mile time trial, averaging 220 watts, and I had a decent enough result, sub 2 hours, 1 hour 57:40, I think, if I remember rightly, which is a decent enough time. But this test is short and sharp, and I can feel my breathing starting to increase now. I'm 180 watts, heart rate creeping up to 130, and I can start a bit of lactic building in the legs already. I think what I need to remember, I'm not in top shape, I'm not well rested, and I'm recovering from illness. So I guess the lesson from that is, don't be too downhearted with the result. It is what it is. That's what I am at the moment in terms of fitness, and I need to use that for the build me up plan. And like I said, if it all starts to feel too easy because my levels are wrong and I've recovered more and I start to feel too strong, I'll sense it and I'll repeat this test, and in theory I should get a better result and have a higher FTP. So we're into 200 watts now, which for me as a lightweight is kind of threshold, sweet spot. But I can feel the breathing starting to get a bit more laboured, and like I said, the legs also starting to burn a bit. And you'll notice I'm doing all this in the TT position. I actually do feel like I can generate more power in the TT position. And of course, if I'm going to race a time trial bike, it makes sense to train on the TT bike. Okay, I felt that increase then. So 20 watts. Once you start to feel it, I'm going to have to take my hat off because I'm getting warm. Yeah, 20 watt increases every minute. Once you start to work harder, are really quite difficult to get over the top of the gear and control. So I'm trying to stay relaxed, and the heart rate's up to 142. This test is going to be over in a few minutes. Like I say though, if I'm going to build back, let's build back from a logical position and not try to push numbers that are beyond my condition in terms of wattage. 240 watts. This is where it starts to get a lot harder for me, and the chit chat will get less. The idea is once you start to feel that pain, you know, you're riding for a minute, it's a finish that minute you're on. And then when it goes up, it feels awful for another increase of 20 watts. And we're going to get that in a minute, up to 260. And you feel it instantly as you try and get on top of the gear, because it's in erg mode. You see the average wattage for the whole test, which is only what, about 7 or 8 minutes in, and I'm suffering. The average is creeping up to 250 watts. Heart rate at 153. I know, as soon as I hit 160, I'm working hard. And the end is nigh. So I'm confident I can hit 270 watts, which is coming up for a minute. Question is, can I take it a step further and hold 280 in a minute's time? So I'm up to 160. The heart rate is spiking. Try and keep it smooth. May have to concentrate and stop talking to you. Target, I'd love to complete a minute at 300. With the heart rate at 161 now, it's a tough ask. Remember, weight is relative and I'm a lightweight. Turn now. Here we go. A minute at 300. I can do it. Struggling. Come on. I'm not gonna get much further. 320. The legs are blown. Come on. Eke out the last bit. I've got no smoothness. I'm grinding. I can't turn the pedals. That's it. I'm done. Okay. FTP 233. Yeah, and I'm pooped. Just 9 minutes 46 a ride. Wow, less than 10 minutes of riding and I'm pooped. But you could argue An FTP out of that, the way I've been feeling, of 233 is actually slightly more than I've been working on. I've been working on 230, which is good. Shows my levels I've been working on are right. Oh, but that, towards the end, I can feel it in my thighs, man. Oh, I lost all smoothness pretty quickly. Like I said, once you start to suffer, it all goes downhill very quickly. But it's a baseline. I'm actually quite pleased. So all the apprehension prior to that test, I've come out feeling positive. I think that is the key takeaway. And as I said, moving forward, I've now got an accurate FTP for the Zwift sessions, and I'm really looking forward to retesting this. I think I'll retest in about a month. So I would like to think that as I've been feeling crappy, I've been feeling, recovering, I'd like to think that I can improve that by at least 20 watts. So if I can get an FTP in Zwift approaching 250, 255, or even 260, maybe 260 by the time I really want to be in shape in March, but I can't see how it would get worse. I thought I'd struggle to get around 210, 220 with the way I've been feeling. So 233 is the magic number, and I'll start the build-up plan. So that's the cycling taken care of. I just need to start feeling a bit better when I'm running, and I've still got an intent to do a park run tempo on Saturday if the weather's okay, and go by feel. If I go by feel for tempo, anywhere between 1940, something like that, and 20 minutes. In my head, over 20 minutes, depending on how I feel, is not a great run. I should be able to cruise at 4 minute per k. But if I'm not at that point, then I've got to accept that again and have that run as a baseline measure, and maybe repeat it again in 4 weeks' time. Oh, I'm getting all technical with all these tests to see where the fitness is at and get the training levels nailed. Right, I'm going to spin a bit more here and get on the treadmill. Thanks for joining on the pain of an FTP test.